We've all heard the saying, right? Power corrupts. It's a neat little phrase we use to explain some of the darkest chapters in our history. But what if that's not the whole story? What if power doesn't create the monster, but just unleashes it?
See, when you picture a historical tyrant, you're probably thinking of a king, an emperor, some brutal conqueror. But today, we're going to open the case files on 3 women whose cruelty was so profound, so personal, and so horrifying it left a stain on history that will never wash out. Their reigns of terror weren't just about politics. They were about faith, paranoia, and, in one case, pure, sadistic pleasure.
Okay, let's open our first file. We're heading to 16th century England, where a queen's deep-seated trauma and fiery religious conviction would turn her kingdom into a literal inferno. Her name was Mary Tudor, but you probably know her by a different, much bloodier title.
So to understand the monster, you really have to understand the girl. Mary started her life as a cherished princess, the absolute apple of her father's eye, King Henry VIII. But then, she failed to be the son he so desperately wanted. And just like that, he threw her away. He divorced her mother, shattered the Catholic Church in England, and branded his own daughter a bastard. Imagine that. To be stripped of your title, your faith, your very identity by your own father. That kind of betrayal plants a seed of resentment, and by the time she clawed her way to the throne in 1553, that seed had grown into a raging, righteous inferno.
Mary had a singular, all-consuming mission: to drag England, kicking and screaming if necessary, back to the Catholic faith. For her, the Protestantism her father unleashed wasn't just a different point of view, it was a cancer on the soul of her country, and she saw herself as the divine surgeon chosen by God to cut it out.
So how do you perform that kind of surgery on a national scale? How do you cleanse an entire nation of what you see as heresy? For Queen Mary, the answer was terrifyingly simple. She revived old heresy laws, and her chosen instrument of purification was fire. She genuinely believed that for the souls of these Protestants to be saved in the next life, their bodies had to be utterly annihilated by flames in this one.
The scale of this purge was just staggering. In the 3 years between 1555 and 1558, almost 300 people were publicly burned at the stake. We're talking men, women, even children, forced to choose between their faith and a horrific, agonizing death. It was this campaign of religious terror that earned her the infamous name she carries to this day, Bloody Mary. From the fanatical fires of England, we now journey to the 19th century, to the lush, isolated island of Madagascar. It's here we find a queen whose brand of cruelty wasn't about God, but about an all-consuming, paranoid obsession with absolute, total power. Her name was Ranavalona I.
Now, Ranavalona wasn't born to rule, not even close. She was a commoner, but when her father uncovered a plot to assassinate the king, she was brought into the royal family as a reward. And that first taste of power, it was intoxicating. When her husband, the king, died, Ranavalona didn't wait to be pushed aside. She seized the throne herself, and to make sure no one could ever challenge her, she had every single potential rival in the royal family systematically hunted down and murdered.
Right away, her goal was to turn Madagascar into a fortress, completely sealed off and self-sufficient. She expelled all foreigners, literally tore up every treaty with European nations, and violently banned Christianity, which she saw as a poison seeping in from the outside world. She was locking the doors and throwing away the key.
And inside this sealed fortress, her system of justice was something out of a fever dream. If you were accused of a crime, forget lawyers or evidence. You faced the trial by ordeal. You were forced to swallow a poison from the local tangina nut and then immediately eat 3 pieces of chicken skin. If, by some miracle, your body rejected it all and you vomited everything up, you were declared innocent. If not, well, you were either executed on the spot or the poison finished the job. It was state-sanctioned Russian roulette.
And she had a message for the outside world, too. When the French tried their luck with an invasion, her army crushed them. But just winning wasn't enough for Ranavalona. She wanted to make a statement. She had the heads of the defeated French soldiers chopped off, stuck on pikes, and arranged them all along the coastline, a gruesome, rotting warning to anyone else who dared to test her. The cost of this tyranny was catastrophic. Between the constant warfare, the forced labor, the bizarre justice system, and the diseases that ran rampant in her isolated kingdom, the population just collapsed. In a mere 6-year span, from 1833 to 1839, the population of Madagascar was cut in half. 5 million people became 2.5 million.
Our final case file takes us to 16th century Hungary.
And it might be the most disturbing of all. We're not looking at a queen this time, but a countess, a woman whose unimaginable cruelty wasn't for God, and it wasn't for her country. It was just for fun. This is the story of Countess Elizabeth Báthory.
You've probably heard the legends about her, right? The blood countess, bathing in the blood of virgins to stay young forever. While there's no real proof of the blood bathing, the truth that investigators eventually uncovered was so much worse. She is, without a doubt, one of the most prolific serial killers, male or female, in all of recorded history.
So you have to ask why? Why torture and murder hundreds of young girls? Unlike our other two cases, there was no political gain, no religious mission. The most likely and frankly the most bone-chilling explanation is the simplest one. She got a sadistic thrill from it. She just liked it.
And her methods were monstrously creative. With her loyal servants helping, she turned torture into an art form. Girls were beaten so viciously their bodies would literally burst. She'd shove needles under their fingernails, slice them with blades, burn them with red-hot pokers. In the summer, she'd smear them with honey and leave them staked out for ants and bees. In the winter, she'd douse them in freezing water until they became human statues of ice. This was not distant, detached cruelty. This was up close and personal.
For years, she got away with it because her victims were local peasant girls, and in that time and place, nobody cared. But her fatal mistake was getting arrogant. In 1609, she opened a school for the daughters of lesser nobles, a finishing school, supposedly. In reality, it was a private hunting ground. Dozens of girls from good families walked in and never walked out. And when rich girls go missing, people finally start asking questions. An investigation was finally launched, and her own accomplices cracked, telling the authorities everything. And while the legends you hear today sometimes put the number of her victims at over 600, the official number, based on hundreds of witness testimonies, is still a mind-shattering 300 girls. 300 lives, snuffed out for one woman's amusement. So there you have it. 3 women. 3 different continents. 3 completely distinct flavors of terror. From religious zealotry to paranoid tyranny to pure, unadulterated sadism, their stories are a chilling look into the darkest corners of the human heart. When you lay it all out, you see these 3 different faces of cruelty. For Mary, the fanatic, every burning pyre was an act of purification. For Ranavalona, the tyrant, every execution was a way to cement her absolute power. And for Báthory, the sadist, every scream was just for her own enjoyment. 3 totally different reasons, all leading to the same monstrous end. It really leaves us with a deeply unsettling question, doesn't it? Does that kind of absolute power corrupt someone and create a monster? Or does it just give the monster that was hiding there all along permission to finally come out and play? It's a question history keeps asking, and it never seems to give us an easy answer.